Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Sandler, and I am the president of the board of directors of the Jack M. Barrack Hebrew Academy, and it is my pleasure to welcome you this evening. Thank you for joining us for our 22nd annual gala. I especially welcome our incredible honorees, Howard and Ronit Treatman. They are the primary reason we are gathered here this evening. Howard and Ronit, thank you so much for all that you do for our school and for our community. And on a personal note, Howard, as immediate past president, I so much appreciate you being my mentor, and I'm proud to call you my friend. So thank you. I also want to take a moment to welcome and acknowledge some of our guests and community partners. Our partners at the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia, President and CEO Michael Balaban and Board Chair Michael Markman. Our partners at JNF, represented by First Vice President Joseph Wolfson. Mitchell Dar, Head of School, Perlman Jewish Day School. Members of the Board and Executive Committee of Perlman Jewish Day School. Representatives from our other community day schools and organizations, clergy from our community synagogues, and our First Lady, Lori Shapiro. This evening would not be the tremendous success that it is without the help of so many people. Thank you to the Gala honorary chairs, Charlie and Rachel Corman. Thank you. Thank you also to the Gala co-chairs, Michael Stein and Joyce and Jeff Reddick. They have helped to create this wonderful evening. And we also thank our program co-chairs, Devorah Treatman, class of 13, David Treatman, class of 16, and Hannah Treatman, class of 19. A tremendous thank you to Alex Stroker and his incredible team for making this night come together. And of course, thank you to our amazing Gala committee for your tremendous outreach and recruitment efforts. And thank you to Michael Oren, our keynote speaker, for being with us this evening. And last, but most certainly not least, we deeply appreciate our generous donors and sponsors for your steadfast support of our efforts. Thank you again for joining us. I invite you all to sit back and relax and enjoy the evening. It is now my pleasure to welcome Sophia Lisak to the stage to deliver our Devar Torah. A Barrack senior, Sophia is the president of the Mut Beit Din and the Model UN, co-president of the Israel Club, and Jewish Leadership Initiative Fellow. Outside of school, she is a Hartman Teen Fellow and co-president of her B'nai Akiva chapter in Lower Merion. Next year, Sophia will attend Mechinat Aderet, a post-high school pre-army program in Israel. Sophia?
Good evening. It is an honor for me to stand here to share some words of Torah with you tonight. As we gather to celebrate our Barrack Kahila and the accomplishments of our school, just a few weeks before Pesach, we are reminded of the resilience and the strength of the Jewish people. This year, the story of Pesach carries a deeper meaning. The holiday, meant to be a celebration of freedom, cannot be celebrated to its full extent as brothers and sisters still remain in captivity. I know for myself and many others in this room, a piece of our hearts remain captive alongside them, reminding us that our celebration of freedom is incomplete. The Pesach song Halach Ma'anya states, Hashata avdei l'shana haba'a b'nei chorin. This year we are enslaved, next year we will be free. These words, often stated with hope and gratitude to Hashem, resonate differently once again this year. When we break the middle matzah during our Seder, it also symbolizes a sense of our brokenness as we search for that missing piece of our freedom when we search for the Afikomen. This act serves as a reminder that even in times of celebration, and this year in particular, we must remember those still waiting for freedom. As a people, we are still broken after the loss of so many on October 7th. In the face of so much loss, it is reasonable to ask, how are we to remain hopeful and find the joy to celebrate our freedom on Pesach with many still suffering? Turns out we can find hope in what the Talmud calls a mitzvah rabbah, a great mitzvah. Pidyon shvuyim mitzvah rabbahi. Redeeming captives is a great mitzvah. This mitzvah, discussed in Bava Batra 8b, allows us to remain hopeful and celebrate as it teaches us how we are all responsible for one another. Our nation unifies and supports each other in times of tragedy, showing our strength and our devotion to Judaism and to one another. Some of our captives have been redeemed. We must not stop until they are all home. This year, our school has decided to embody the theme of Havana, understanding. Havana teaches us to empathize and expand our awareness. It means that we must listen to the cries of those, as shown in the book of Shemot, Exodus, chapter 6, verse 5, when Hashem declares, V'gam ani shamati et na'kat b'nei Yisrael, asher Mitzrayim ma'avidim otam, ve'ezkor et briti. I have now heard the moaning of the Israelites because the Egyptians are holding them in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. Here we see how Hashem, in hearing the cries of Israelites, recognizes the need to free them. Likewise, we must not close our ears and our eyes to listen to the cries of hostages and their families, and we must strengthen our commitment to bringing them home. When we will gather at our Seder tables in less than a month, we will sing one of the themes of our history, Vehisha Amda. Vehisha Amda lavotenu velanu, shelo echad bilvad, amad aleinu lechalotenu, ela shebechol dor vador, omdim aleinu lechalotenu, v'akadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. And this, the promise, is what kept our fathers and what keeps us surviving. For not only one arose and tried to destroy us, rather in every generation they tried to destroy us, and Hashem saved us from their hands. This song has become an anthem of our people. Let us always rise up together and with the help of Hashem, overcome any obstacle before us. Tonight, as we honor our Barrack Kehila weeks before Pesach, let us remember that with our joy remains the pain of those still awaiting their freedom. Yet it is through resilience and a shared commitment to our people that we find strength. The story of Pesach reminds us of the power of hope and unity, how we must continue to listen, understand, and act, and that we must remain committed to securing freedom for all. Thank you, and have a good evening.
When you set out the values of a community to be respectful, kind, nurturing, and also with a constant intention towards curiosity, and that's the way you approach learning, you end up with leaders.
Sometimes the argument for public school is, well, hey, our district's really good. And I think that's a great argument, but I don't think it has anything to do with why you would send your kid to Barrack. Barrack is turning out mensches, and that's not something that you can teach in a public school, and it's not something that you can teach in general, but it's happening here because of the environment that they've created.
I think there's a lot of places to get a very good secular education, but to combine it with Jewish values makes for a more whole person. To get that education early in life and to have it really be part of the fabric of your coming of age and that impressionable time of your life was really important to me.
They are understanding what it means to live a values-driven life. What is important to you? For us, it's community, it's honor, it's courage, and it's kindness. And that's what Barrack has here.
I think because this school really turns out a lot of mensches, the kids end up going out into the world and feel a pull towards doing good in the world.
It has really encouraged him, I think, just to take a deeper dive into his learning and his education, and just taking very active interest in what's going on in the world.
The success rate of getting into colleges, there's no other choice. I tell everyone they should choose Barrack.
There's a lot of schools to pick if you are looking at a private school, and what Barrack has here, at least for me and my family, has exceeded all expectations.
There's no other choice if you want Jewish values for your children, along with a superior academic education. You can get one or the other in other places, but you can't get both, and Barrack has both.
I think it's incredibly important and a gift that your child can be somewhere during their formative years where they can be their authentic self. He feels so much more comfortable and he feels rooted. He has already grown roots here. It's kind of miraculous.
That makes all the difference for me. You're part of something bigger in this world. You have this community to be together, to learn together, and to grow up together.
Erev Tov, good evening. It is such a pleasure to be here tonight with so many friends and supporters of Barrack Hebrew Academy as we join together for our 22nd annual Gala. We are blessed to be part of a vibrant and committed community who understands both the undeniable value of our school and the importance of a Jewish day school education. This evening, we are thrilled to honor Howard and Ronit Treatman for their leadership and contributions to our school, to learn with our guest speaker, Michael Oren, Israel's former ambassador to the United States, and to share highlights of some of the programs and investments in Barrack that continue to make it such an outstanding academic, social, and Jewish environment in which to grow, thrive, and raise the future leaders of the Jewish people. Welcome to our parents, our faculty, alumni, supporters, friends, colleagues, rabbis, students, and partners in the Philadelphia area Jewish community. All of you enable us to do the holy work that connects us here tonight, educating the next generation of knowledgeable, identified, engaged, and proud young Jewish adults. Thank you to Michael Oren, our guest and featured speaker, for sharing your insights with us tonight and for speaking with our upper school students tomorrow. Thank you to our board of directors for your dedication to Barrack Hebrew Academy. Your combined passion, purpose, and wisdom enables the professional team to fulfill our mission and for our students to build the foundation for a purposeful and meaningful Jewish life. Thank you as well to our entire development team and all the staff and volunteers who have been involved in making this evening a success. We continue to join together as a global Jewish community as our hearts remain with the hostages and their families, IDF soldiers and their families, and with all the people of Israel. We pray for the return of loved ones, for healing, togetherness, strength, and for peace for the entire region. 2 weeks ago, I handed out over 300 chocolate bars at school. Why, you may ask? Because when you are the head of school and it's Purim, you need a great costume and you need to live your character. So you dress up as Willy Wonka and you feed middle and upper school students, faculty and staff, as well as a few lucky parents, chocolate. Lots and lots of chocolate. This is a vision of pure Jewish joy and one of the many blessings of a Jewish day school environment. But I want to paint for you what I felt was an even better picture of Jewish joy from Purim Day, more than the administrators dressed as swipe cards or teenagers, or the students dressed as Loraxes or Saquon Barkley, or the faculty as pirates or minions, more than the students attending Megillah readings, giving out Mishloach Manot, or raising money for Matanot Levyonim. About 20 minutes before dismissal, with much of the school still in our dining commons eating our poor meal, and Hebrew and Israeli music cycling through our sound system and videos playing on our large TV, Jewish teens just started dancing on the floor of our dining commons and on the benches of our tables. Hebrew song after Hebrew song after Hebrew song. Multiple grades, multiple friend groups, singing Hebrew songs they've learned in class, that they hear when they come into school, that they dance to at Shabbat Shmooze, dancing with each other, with friends and faculty, and smiling and laughing and connecting to Israel and to Hebrew and to the Jewish people and to one another. Pure Jewish pride filled that dining commons. And if you haven't seen it, or you need a jolt of positive energy, or want to think about the positives of our future, I invite you to check out our social media posts from March 14th, and you may even see Willy Wonka singing and dancing to Kvisha Chof with the 10th grade. This is a window into our school and our shared purpose. We are working tirelessly at Barrack to instill within our students the value of, and this Gala's theme, Am Echad. We are one nation. We are one people. We share holidays, songs, language, and history. We share triumphs and losses, successes and challenges, celebrations and consolations, achievements and failures. We are connected to one another over generations and are undefined by borders. We know and we celebrate that Israel and North America are now the major centers of Jewish life. The bonds between our communities have been and must remain unbreakable. But we also know that we share bonds with Jews across the world. We are a nation and a people that transcends time, that reaches across space and countries and cultures, and bound by our connections to one another and to all of Klal Yisrael, from Bryn Mawr to Beersheba, and anywhere we may be. As we strive to inspire our students with these ideas and these ideals, we know that our school must remain focused on our mission and all that it takes to achieve this mission. Last spring, we ratified, and in August, we launched an ambitious strategic plan full of goals that we are already in the process of actualizing. We are rebuilding and expanding our arts programs and have seen increased enrollment in drama programs, development of new music electives, and upper school art students who are honing their talents and having their work celebrated outside of school. We're investing in our athletic program, expanding opportunities for students through participation in the Friends Schools League, attracting new and experienced coaches, and building deeper relationships through athletic competition with Jewish day schools throughout the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. We are crafting unique opportunities for learning in our upper school institutes as students pursue passions in STEAM, business and entrepreneurship, or art, and compete in local and statewide competitions to both showcase their skills and to further their learning. We have continued our investment in Israel education, even as recent travel has been impacted by the war. For the third straight year, we have a full-time Israel Shaliach on staff. We have an Israel education coordinator. We're engaging in curricular review, bring speakers to campus regularly, and have raised close to $19 million for the JNF Jack M. Barrack Hebrew Academy Muss Scholarship Fund. As we initiate a new entity in our program and raise dollars for the Office of Israel Education and Engagement, we seek to enhance these offerings and focus on the activities of this project on a few items, including partnering with national organizations who are doing Israel education and bringing them more regularly to campus. We continue to invest in updating our building. creating new and evolved spaces for learning and collaboration for both faculty and students. This led to the dedication this year of the Irvin and Betty Berger Center for Student and Jewish Life, the Barbara and Richard Baum Beit Midrash, and a project on the horizon which we announced at last year's Gala, the development of a learning center, a generous gift from the Corman family. And as we seek to inspire and educate more Jewish students, we remain steadfast in our commitment to raising the necessary funds to support families who wish to invest in a Jewish education for their children. All that we do connects to our mission and is in service to the theme of our Gala, Am Echad, one nation and one people. In a recent article in the Sapir Journal, Israel's President Isaac Herzog wrote about Zionism as a method of diversity and why it is precisely those things that divide us that are the key to our rebuilding. He advocates that we must learn how to sidestep the pitfalls of diversity and harness it for our growth, find commonality and mutual respect, see one another as partners, not competitors, and bring a genuine receptiveness to hearing one another. Using Zionism as his focus, but applying it to the Jewish community worldwide, he argues that Zionism was and still is a structural container for diversity, creating both a physical home and a space for multiple ideas and identities. We are a diverse nation and a diverse people, but we must remember that we are always one nation and one people. And among our differences and our commonalities, we need to remember that that which binds us together and connects us is much stronger and more powerful than what divides us. In President Herzog's words, I believe that this moment of the evolutionary stage of our peoplehood, this time of both rupture and crisis, is rife with potential for growth, and it can be done. In my own words, we must lean into what connects us, deepen those bonds even more, and learn to love each other more and more. This is our goal at Barrack, and these are the ideals that our honorees, Howard and Ronit Treatman, exemplify. Both Howard and Ronit have been involved at Barrack for a very long time. Even before their own children, Devorah, David, and Hannah, graduated from our school, Ronit's younger brother attended a kibbutz when her family relocated from Venezuela. This connection to Barrack runs deep and is ongoing, years after their children completed their education and pursued their passions in New York and in Israel. A few months ago, when I saw that the American Jewish Committee was hosting an event in conversation with its CEO, Ted Deutsch, and Akiba Barrack alum and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, I contacted Ronit to see if it would be possible for some Barrack students to attend. Without hesitation, Ronit made it happen. This is just one very small example of their commitment to Barrack students still today. And yet, her worldview is much bigger than just Barrack. With involvement at the AJC, the Philadelphia Jewish Voice, and Reconnect, just to name a few. Raised as the child of a diplomat, Ronit engages in meaningful work on behalf of the Jewish community, celebrating its vastness and its diversity. And Howard is equally committed to sustaining and strengthening the Jewish people and the larger community. Barrack Hebrew Academy, the Germantown Jewish Center, the Mount Airy Community Development Corporation. These are just some of the many organizations that Howard has impacted through his volunteerism and leadership over the years. And with Barrack in particular, his involvement knows no limits. Board member, finance chair, board president, past president, exec committee, real estate committee, confidant, philanthropist, and friend. Howard brings his wisdom, his work ethic, and his generous spirit to everything that we do and that he does on behalf of Barrack. He is always available, always, with an answer to a question or to share a creative approach to solving a problem. And he uses his talents and his passion to drive us forward. Just a few weeks ago, when I connected with Howard and Ronit for an 8 a.m. meeting, it was the first of 3 Barrack meetings for Howard that day, alongside his day job. Tonight, we have the privilege of honoring a couple who are committed to ensuring that our Jewish community will thrive, that the Jewish people will thrive at Barrack, in Philly, in Israel, and communities worldwide, who find meaning in doing meaningful work, and to paraphrase Howard, whose natural rest position is getting involved to make an impact on the things that are most important to them. Thank you, Howard and Ronit, for your immense love for the Jewish people, for your commitment to strengthening Jewish peoplehood, for enriching so many Jewish communities, and for ensuring that Barrack continues to shine and graduate the future leaders of Am Yisrael. Mazal Tov. It's now my pleasure to invite David Treatman, class of 2016, to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Hannah Treatman.
And I'm Devorah Treatman.
We are recording from our home in Tel Aviv. Although we couldn't join you in person tonight, we are so tremendously proud of you both.
You are so committed to building up the Jewish community universally and the Barrack community in particular. It has been inspiring as your children to see you channel your ideals and passions into direct action with real impact on people's lives. We miss you and we love you very, very much.
There are so many ways to tell you how much you have meant to us as your children and to the broader Barrack community. To do so, we will leave it in the capable hands of our brother, David.
David, it's showtime.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here to celebrate with us. My name is David Treatman. I'm here to say a few words about this year's Gala honorees, our parents, Howard and Ronit. As my sister said, I'll be sharing the following on behalf of the 3 of us. While we miss them, my family's extremely proud of their decisions after graduating from Barrack to make Aliyah and serve in the IDF. They both reside in Tel Aviv. Dad and Ima, congratulations on this recognition. It is fitting that you should be honored for your contributions to a community and an institution rooted in Jewish tradition, Jewish texts, and Hebrew. These and other core Jewish values are the foundation on which you built our home, though if I may credit one specifically, it would have to be Hebrew. Not because you raised us speaking it, but because you met sneaking into a Hebrew speaker's mixer. So without Hebrew, I don't think I would be here tonight. My parents have always been people of extreme commitment, with the dedication and conviction to live life by their principles. This includes a devotion to the Jewish people. Their values of communal responsibility and education manifested in conversation and action, touching many of Philadelphia and the world's Jewish movements and institutions. For my parents, sending us to the Jack and Barrack Hebrew Academy was one of the most important decisions they made to ensure that we were given the foundation to understand these values and form a foundation from which to go into the world ourselves. There are many things in the decision to send us to Barrack that showcase my parents' dedication to their values. My mother would drive somewhere between 2.5 to 3 hours a day round trip to make sure that we were able to attend the school. On occasions when my older sister's participation in mock trial or my participation in the drama department or the swim team necessitated it, she would make multiple trips or stay out even later to make sure that we were able to take advantage of all the opportunities offered through the school. My dad, beyond the financial commitment to send 3 kids to a private day school, also became ferociously involved in championing myriad efforts to ensure the continued improvement of the school, its financial security, and the ability of other families that choose to prioritize Jewish education to be able to access that at Barrack regardless of means. Our parents cultivated a home environment that expanded and thrived based on the education and instruction offered by the school. From stressing that we treat the Judaic studies with the same intensity as secular subjects, to adopting traditions, melodies, and learnings we brought home from our classes, we created a home environment that was an extension of the work being done at Barrack to foster a foundation of Jewish responsibility and knowledge. Both of our parents have been so actively involved in different committees and leadership positions within the school community and in the broader Jewish community that we saw regular, firsthand examples of what personal commitment and sacrifice in service of your values looks like. Perhaps most important to our family have been Hebrew and Zionism. Our Hebrew classes and their combination with the MUS program to Israel and Poland crystallized and made personal the stories we heard from our family and supported my mother in her effort to raise us as native Hebrew speakers in a country that pressures complete assimilation. At times when it felt unfair or excessive that we had twice the school subjects as some of our friends from other schools, our parents were always sure to communicate to us the importance of the Judaic subjects and the invaluable foundation we were establishing of language and textual familiarity. My mother would always respond to our rebellion against speaking Hebrew with the phrase, Yom echad tagidu li toda, which translates roughly to, one day you'll thank me for making you speak Hebrew. Well, all three of us have said it before at one time or another, here or there, but let today be the date of my official proclamation, on behalf of me and my sisters, Devorah and Hannah, in front of this crowd, to say thank you. Not just for the Hebrew, but for the extraordinary efforts you both made to provide such a high-quality education for us. We are so proud of you both, and we are proud and not at all surprised by your monumental efforts over the years to ensure that the Jack and Barrack Hebrew Academy is the most excellent tool in Philadelphia for building this foundation for other families and for making sure that it is accessible to all. We love you both so much. Dad, Ima, I'd like to invite you up to say a few words.
Good evening, dear friends. Ronit and I are so honored by your presence here tonight and so pleased that you have joined us in supporting our beloved school. But as we all know, our presence here tonight is about more than one school. It is about one people. When Ronit and I first learned of the theme of tonight's event, we were thrilled. There is nothing more important to us than the unity and survival of the Jewish people.
We are one people. Our family encapsulates that. The fabric of our family is woven of strands from Bukhara in Uzbekistan, Ottoman Jerusalem, Lodz, Bialystok, and Piotrków-Trybunalski in Poland, Dvinsk in Latvia, Obadovka in Ukraine, Sombor in Galicia, and Kosice in Slovakia. This summer, when our son David marries, Babylonia, the oldest Jewish diaspora, will be added to our fabric. When our forebears met and married, they did not see strangers. They saw fellow Jews. When Howard and I met, the fact that we were born 5,000 miles apart was irrelevant. I had found my nice Jewish boy. Howard and I decided to combine our traditions, synagogue and religious rituals, Hebrew language and Israeli-style celebrations, Ethiopian and Venezuelan flavors and sayings, family in the US and family in Israel. Our marriage reflects tonight's theme, worldwide Jewry, including American Jews and our brethren in Israel, are Am Echad, one people.
When the Treatmans arrived in Philadelphia over 120 years ago, they had a drive to contribute to their new country and find their place within it. Their love of America was instant and profound, and yet their sense of Jewish peoplehood remained second nature to them. They knew that our unity in this new place was critical and that it was essential to build Jewish institutions and promote Jewish continuity. We have all seen, with some regret, that this sense of self-evidence has inevitably weakened as our community enters its fourth and fifth generations in this country. October 7th has been a reminder to all of us, as we have seen our sense of welcome erode, as our children feel unsafe on campuses that used to celebrate our presence, as decades-long alliances withered when we needed them the most. Our destiny as Jews, however we understand this today, whether we are religious or secular, communally evolved or disconnected, left or right, Israeli or American, is linked and is less certain than we may have thought. While we have recently experienced the inquiet that this entails, I see our re-embrace of this connection as a source of strength, context, and meaning. And I hope this re-embrace will have lasting impact. Throughout all of this, Barrack has been here, building the Jewish community, child by child, and in so doing, building the Jewish leaders of the future. Barrack's message of unity and embrace of the pluralism of the Jewish people is more salient than ever. We are meeting the current moment, just as more and more of us are trying to figure it out and find our place in it. Underpinning all of this, Barrack's strong emphasis on Jewish peoplehood and our connection to Israel is fundamental.
Barrack gave our children critical pieces of the education that we wanted for them: Jewish history and Hebrew reading and writing. The semester at the Alexander Muss School was transformational. They learned the history of Israel in situ. Even for a secular Israeli like me, it was very moving that they experienced the Torah by visiting the places where formative events took place. Devorah said, "The curriculum at Muss was really impactful for me because it connected the ancient Jewish history and texts that we had been studying for years in the Bible, the Mishnah, and the Talmud, and the bits of Jewish history we had learned in isolation, and put it all into a cohesive framework of the story of Israel and the story of the Jewish people. It made the case that we are part of that story." David told me that he did not understand everything that I had been telling him about anti-Semitism until the class trip to Poland. My grandmother came out of the ashes of Auschwitz, my grandfather out of Buchenwald. He was one of the survivors of Dr. Mengele's experiments. The Holocaust has a long reach. I know that I inherited and transmitted some of their survival strategies, and even some of their instincts. This is part of my family's legacy. As soon as the class returned to Israel, they participated in Gadna, the preparatory program for the IDF. David experienced what my grandparents always taught me. I was never allowed to obsess about the Holocaust. My job was to learn and rebuild the Jewish people and to fight for Israel. Hannah graduated with such an excellent level in Hebrew that she served in the IDF intelligence unit, doing research in Hebrew. We could not have achieved this without the Hebrew teachers at Barrack.
For these reasons, personal to our family and universal to our people, Ronit and I are so pleased to support the Jack M. Barrack Hebrew Academy, and we hope you will join us. Rabbi Lisa, can you join us up here on the stage? Tonight, Ronit and I are very pleased to announce a fresh $1.5 million commitment to support our school. A large portion of this commitment will go to provide scholarships so that a precious Barrack education remains affordable to Jewish families from a wide range of economic circumstances. Another large portion will go to add to the Jewish National Fund Jack M. Barrack Hebrew Academy Must Scholarship Fund that subsidizes a significant portion of each student's participation in the Must Trimester in Israel program. All dollars are matched 100% by the Jewish National Fund, and we encourage you all to join us in this endeavor. The endowment has grown to nearly $19 million. As costs continue to increase, Barrack remains committed to substantially reducing and in the future, hopefully underwriting fully Must tuition for all students as part of a Barrack education. The largest portion of our commitment will go to renovate our current auditorium and turn it into a true center for the performing arts. Under the long-term leadership of our beloved drama teacher, the late Dewey Orienti, may his memory be for a blessing, Barrack supported a remarkable drama program that not only delivered performances of outstanding quality, but created and mentored a community of creative and artistically minded students. Over the years, this impacted hundreds of students, including our son David. Barrack is committed to its drama program and now has a new full-time drama professional, Hannah Levine, as part of our community. With this investment, as well as other recent investments in our arts program, it is our hope that Barrack will continue and further its exceptional legacy in the performing arts. Ronit and I would like to thank all of you for a beautiful evening. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to invite Jeff Reddig and Mike Stein up to the stage.
Hi, Jeff. Mike? It's like the Smothers Brothers. Right. Howard always seems to keep his wits about him. When he looks up from his cards on poker night and asks, not for the first time, does a straight beat a flush, I admire his candor and his humility, and I immediately raise him a quarter. But over the course of an evening, he invariably ends up ahead by a couple of bucks. I don't know how. How do you do that? He also invariably makes things better for our school.
Howard joined the executive committee at Barrack about 15 years ago, and he's never stopped making our school better. As vice president, he helped expand the middle school, which now educates over 135 students yearly. As president, he brought us Rabbi Lisak, his proudest moment. And as past president recently, he negotiated the purchase of our campus, which will secure our future.
Howard, your service, which is relentless and profound, makes the Jewish community better and makes Jewish lives better. You may not see your generosity in such grandiose terms. You see it as doing today's mitzvah, inspiring a child in her education, or mentoring a young person in his career. You and Ronit never think of your devotion to Jewish community and Jewish education and people as a sacrifice. You consider it enrichment, which of course it is.
Ronit is a true force of nature. She's an author and educator who connects Jews to their Judaism. In talks at conferences around the world, she reaches out to descendants of conversos from Spain and Portugal, inspiring hundreds. During a recent trip of the AJC to Israel, she visited Majdal Shams, a Druze town that Hezbollah attacked in July. Ted Deutsch and other leaders spoke, and the Druze quietly listened. But when Ronit was introduced, the sheikh sprang up and said, "You're Ronit Treatment. I follow you on Facebook." Ronit, you are an international role model for Am Yisrael Chai.
A smarter person than I once said to me, "We give from our abundance." Ronit and Howard, you are blessed with an abundance of love, passionate devotion, and worldly success, and you give with gratitude not to be honored.
You inspire us, your friends, with your love, commitment, and optimism in these troubled times, and we are delighted to honor you this evening. This small token of our appreciation depicts the entrance of the Ronit and Howard Treatment Center for the Performing Arts. Ronit and Howard, kol hakavod, and may you go from strength to strength.
Joe, would you please join me? Joe Wolfson, as Vice President of the JNF Board and former chair of Muss High School, there's supposed to be like a really giant check back there. So it's really big. It's a great big check. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Right. Please accept this gift of $500,000 from the Muss and Bella Stein Charitable Trust, which, yeah.
Michael Oren served in the IDF as a lone soldier in the paratroopers and then as IDF spokesperson. He was Israel's ambassador to the United States from 2009 to 2013, where he was instrumental in fortifying the U.S.-Israel alliance and in obtaining U.S. defense aid. Ambassador Oren served as a member of the Knesset and Deputy Minister of Diplomacy in the Prime Minister's office, overseeing efforts to strengthen Israel diaspora relations, develop the Golan Heights, and fight BDS. He has authored several New York Times bestsellers, including 6 Days of War, Ally, My Journey Across the American-Israel Divide, and Power, Faith, and Fantasy, and is the founder of the Israel Advocacy Group. His most recent book is 2048, The Rejuvenated State, and the most recent writing can be found on his Substack, Clarity. Please welcome Michael Oren.
Thank you, Jeff. Erev Tov, everybody. I can't see you. I know you're out there. Ronit Howard, kavod. Kavod, wow, some story. I'm struck with jealousy because, I got chucked out of Hebrew school. And I had to read my bar mitzvah in transliteration, Baruch, Atah, that's that thing. And so I'm struck with jealousy and awe. Kol hakavod. Thank you. I'm deeply honored to be with you this evening. I knew Jack many, many years ago. I'm honored to be here in the school named for him. I'm honored to be here with Rabbi Lissack, with so many dear friends, the Goodmans and the Ackermans and the Friedmans and so many people. Rabbi Bonder, thank you wherever you are out there. Thank you all. And I am relieved to be speaking with Barrack and not as I did for many years in Washington with some challenge with a guy named Barrack. You'll get it. You'll get it. Sophia talked about the Parashat HaShavua, מאוד יפה, כל הכבוד. And if we're reading the book of Exodus and Deuteronomy, you're going to read the story of the Jewish people. If you have any doubt that the Jewish people are not the exact same people today that we were, the Jewish people who left Egypt and gathered around the Mount Sinai, all you have to do is read this book. Because Moses, every once in a while, is looking up in the sky and saying, why? Why these people? Oh my God, what a headache, what a headache. These people. And yet, when we gather at the base of Mount Sinai, we do what no other people on the planet has done. We accept the responsibility of the law. And the Talmud tells us that that responsibility was offered to other people. Nobody else took it. We took it. The law is responsibility. In Hebrew, achayut. Achayut is what brought me to Israel. The theme tonight is Jewish peoplehood. Am Echad. And the responsibility is hardwired into our peoplehood, into our unity as a nation. My story begins in a small town in northern New Jersey where we were the only Jewish family in a Sicilian neighborhood, and I owe my sense of Jewish peoplehood to a young kid about 10 years old named Vito. All right? Not everyone gets taught Jewish peoplehood by someone named Vito. Vito waited for me with all his Sicilian friends every day when I got off the bus, and he beat the hell out of me for being a Jew. And I'd come home with a black eye and a bloody nose, and my father would greet me. My father, who had liberated one of the satellite camps of Buchenwald during World War II with his brother. They'd both landed on Normandy Beach, fought all the way through Europe. He had taken photographs of the horrors he saw there. He put them in an album. And when he saw me with this bloody nose and this black eye, he opened that album and he said to me, "You see those pictures, son? You see those pictures? Those are our people. Those are our people. And because of what you see there, we need a strong state of Israel." When you hear that at 9 years old, having just been called a Christ killer and having gotten your nose broken, that has a very profound impact on you. And from that age on, I just knew somehow, even though I was getting chucked out of Hebrew school, that I was going to live in the state of Israel. So I joined the Zionist youth movement. And when I was 14, 15 years old, we went to Washington, because where else is a Zionist youth movement going to go? And there, in the basement of a flea bag hotel, I had the honor of meeting Israel's ambassador to the United States. And being a rather chutzpah kid, I ran up and shook his hand. And when I shook his hand, I said, "That's what I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm going to be Israel's ambassador to the United States." Now, I haven't even been in Israel yet, all right? His name was Yitzhak Rabin. And from that moment on, that's what I was going to be. Everything I studied in college, everything I did was going to be to reach that goal, to go to Israel, be an Israeli, and eventually represent it in this country, the land of my birth. And so I went off. I went off to Israel, and as you heard, I was a lone soldier. I was a lone soldier about 100 years ago when people didn't know what a lone soldier was. There were several dozens of us in Israel at the time, and we didn't really get very much. And back then, the army didn't even do laundry, and Israel didn't have central heating, so there wasn't a lot of hot water. So you'd come home for 3-4 weeks without having done your laundry, having taken a bath in 3-4 weeks, and I put the hot water in a bath with my laundry and me, and sort of squirt around a little bit, okay? That's how I did the laundry. It was tough. And I stayed in Israel. I came back to do my studies in the United States, but always came back to Israel, and I had an Israeli journey, a journey of raising a family in Israel, raising children who they themselves went into the army, who fought in wars, a son who was wounded in combat, fighting Hamas. My sister-in-law, killed in one of the first suicide bombings in Jerusalem. Both of her grandchildren attend the Barrack Academy today. And I eventually ended up working for Yitzhak Rabin. Imagine that. Imagine that as an advisor on interchurch affairs, believe it or not. How fascinating was that? And went on to an academic career, sometimes a diplomatic career. And finally, in 2009, I realized my dream of becoming Israel's ambassador to the United States and lived in the same house that Yitzhak Rabin lived and occupied his office for 5 years, and then came back and served in the military, in the military. It's a good Freudian slip, in the government. The army was easier. And all the while, I never lost the sense that I had that I received that moment my father opened up that album and showed me those pictures. Not the sense of victimhood, not even the sense of horror, but believe it or not, the sense of joy, the sense of privilege, to think that I was alive at a time in Jewish history where there was a sovereign Jewish state existing in the state of Israel, a state that could defend itself, a state in which Jews could take responsibility for themselves, because Jews can take responsibility for themselves from all different places. In Philadelphia, certainly you can take responsibility for yourself. But it is only in the state of Israel where Jews can take responsibility for themselves as Jews. Because as Jews in Israel, we are responsible for our electricity, we're responsible for our sewers, and we're responsible for our defense. On October 7th, 2023, we didn't live up to that responsibility. On October 7th, 2023, the state that was founded 3 years after the Holocaust, 3 years almost to the day, May 14th, 1948, the Holocaust ended on May 8th, 1945, 3 years to the day, with the promise that that wasn't going to happen again, let something like it happen again. Let something happen again, and 1,200 of our citizens and the guests in our country were massacred, beheaded, eviscerated, mutilated, burnt, raped. And 252 Israelis and our guests were taken into unspeakable captivity. And only now, as the hostages who have been released are telling their stories, do we know how unspeakable it was of starvation and beating and humiliation and sexual abuse. All that happened on one day when we didn't live up to our responsibility. And Hamas hit us between the eyes, not these eyes, but our identity eyes, because we have two identities. One identity is the state is going to defend its land and citizens. But the other identity says that if in the course of defending our land and citizens, there are soldiers and civilians who are taken captive, Pidyon Shvuim, we are going to live up to the biblical commandment to redeem captives at any cost. Hit us between the eyes. And how can we do both? How can we fight Hamas and release the hostages? How can we ramp up pressure on Hamas to release the hostages when we find out later that sometimes when we ramp up pressure on Hamas, they don't release hostages, they shoot the hostages. And at the same time, while we're trying to reconcile this, my daughter, who is also a combat veteran from the Golani Brigade, fought in the 2006 Lebanon War, says to me, Abba, I don't care who wins the war. As far as I'm concerned, we lost the war. The state of Israel has one goal and one goal only now, and that is to redeem the hostages. For if we don't redeem the hostages, I can't send my kids to the army. Her brother, the one who was wounded fighting Hamas, says, yeah, but if we don't beat Hamas, you won't have an army to send your kids to. And they're both right. That friction, that tension is going on in every single one of us and has been since October 7th, 2023. At the same time, in the world, in Jewish communities here, in Europe, I've just come back from Australia. In Australia, anti-Semitism, waves of anti-Semitism such as we have not witnessed in 80 years. The great pro-Israel Irish writer, today that sounds like an oxymoron, Conor Cruz O'Brien said that anti-Semitism is a light sleeper. On October 7th, October 8th, we found out how easily anti-Semitism could be awakened and what happened when it wasn't awakened. The outpouring of sheer hatred for Israel and the Jewish people on campuses, here in Philadelphia, in the media, across the world, it was startling and stunning, and suddenly we felt, all of us in the Jewish people, we felt so much alone, so much alone. And yet, it was on October 7th, brace yourself for what I'm going to say right now, we almost owe Hamas a thank you. Because Hamas reminded us of who we are. Hamas reminded us, and lest we had ever forgotten, Hamas reminded us that we are a people, that we are a nation, that we are one. How tragic that we had to have that happen, but it did. And there were tremendous divisions before that, both in Israel and in the diaspora, and between diaspora and Israel. And on that day, we were reminded who we were. On that day, we were again accepting the responsibility of Jewish peoplehood. And how did we accept it? In Israel, 80% of the population, there's never been anything like it, 80% of the population volunteered. They tended to wounded in hospitals. They gave blood. They picked fruit on farms. They housed the displaced, and we had 200,000 people displaced from their homes. They fed soldiers over and over and over again. And 360,000 Israelis left their home, left their work. These weren't kids. These were the heads of high-tech companies. They got out and they picked up a gun and went out to fight for their country, knowing full well that some of them would come back irreparably changed, and some of them wouldn't come back at all. 360,000 Israelis, numerically, proportionately, is the equivalent of 20 million Americans. That's 4 million Americans more than fought in all of World War II. Can you imagine that? And who in the West is willing to do this today? Someone willing to pick up a gun and fight for Belgium today? Or Spain? Or half the countries of Europe? Truly, who does something like this? 360,000 Israelis fighting for hundreds of days. I was briefly in the military last summer. I volunteered for the military. That gun was a lot heavier than I remembered. And the helmet. In the Army with people who have been serving since October 7th. They haven't been out for a day. I'm in awe of these people. I'm in awe of these people. And then the Jewish people in the world. I've had the great privilege of traveling across this country back and forth since October 7th, speaking to about 60, 70 different communities. Some of you have heard me multiple times, and I apologize. But what I saw was the Jewish people coming together. Whatever divisions we had before, they were put aside, and an outpouring of empathy and philanthropy, such as no one has ever seen. I was startled. Sometimes I was literally struck speechless, which is something for me, by the outpouring of love and caring and unity of the Jewish people. And we learned to fight back against that wave of anti-Semitism. Because the old method of exposing the anti-Semites and shaming the anti-Semites and educating the anti-Semites didn't quite work, because these people out in the streets, they didn't have to be exposed. They were out shouting their anti-Semitism. They weren't going to be ashamed of it, and they weren't exactly educatable. But we learned to fight in a different way, in a Churchillian way. We learned to fight in the classroom, in the courtroom, in the media, and in the state and national government on the level. Who would have thought before October 7th that the fight against anti-Semitism would have resulted in the resignation of the presidents of Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania? Who would have thought that there'd be legislation passed on multiple levels, voiding anti-Semitism, punishing the anti-Semites? We've learned to fight back in the way that was unimaginable before that. Unimaginable before that. Yes, hurrah. Before being ambassador, in those halcyon days, I was a professor, and professor of teaching military history of the Middle East. And I had that honor of visiting West Point many times and sitting with scholars of military history of the Middle East. I will tell you unequivocally that Israel's war, since October 7th to today, over a year and a half, will be studied at West Point and at military academies around the world for the next 50 to 100 years. There has never been a military victory like it. All right? No army in history ever encountered remotely the challenges that Israel faced in Gaza alone, and not on the 6 other fronts on which Israel fought. The greatest battle fought by the U.S. military in recent memory was the Battle of Fallujah, the Battle of Mosul, in which the American Army encountered in these cities 5,000 terrorists. Nobody was in the cities were abandoned, and no tunnels. The Israeli army in Gaza encountered 30,000 Hamas terrorists. In a densely populated area, 2.2 million civilians with nowhere to go, and over 500 miles of tunnels. No one's ever encountered anything like it. It's not even in the books. And the Israeli army prevailed wherever it could fight, because it couldn't fight in the area where the hostages were being held, killed 20,000 terrorists, subdued Hamas, and at the same time subdued Hezbollah in Lebanon. Nobody thought we could have done that, and you know about the pagers operation, and you know about the walkie-talkies, right? No one thought we could have done that. Which in turn resulted in the breakup of Syria, a state which has only existed to threaten its neighbors, and particularly this neighbor, Israel. I fought against the Syrians. And Iran has been subdued, and the Israeli Air Force carried out 4 2,000-mile sorties, 2 against Yemen, 2 against Iran, without losing a single airplane. They're going to be studying this for 50 to 100 years because nobody encountered anything like it. And you're going to hear about the 47,000 Palestinians we've killed over and over again. Believe me, on the news, I hear it every time. And every time I'm on the news, I stop them dead. I said, hold it. Hold it with your 47,000. True, the loss of even a single Palestinian is a great tragedy. A great tragedy. But 47,000, deduct the 20,000 that Israel, and we know we have killed that many terrorists, deduct the thousands of Palestinians who are killed by Palestinian rockets falling short, because about 12% of their rockets fall short. One just fell short last week and killed people. And deduct the 6,000 people who, out of a population of 2.2 million over the course of a year and a half, die of natural means, because I throw them in too, and you're going to get a 1-to-1 combatant to civilian casualty rate. It is a ratio that has never been equaled by any army in history. When the United States fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, it was at the very lowest 9-to-1. It often reached as high as 26-to-1. 26-to-1. These are extraordinary factors. Extraordinary, truly extraordinary factors. And yet today, with all of our unity, with all our coming together, the philanthropy, the support, the military victory, the agony of those hostages who have come out and told their stories. Today, Israel continues to face challenges that are really defy imagination. Not only is the fighting continuing in Gaza, not only are we still getting hit by rockets from the Houthis, and occasionally rockets from Gaza itself. I live in South Tel Aviv, and we are using my mamad, our safe room, just about every night or every morning. And we still have 59 hostages in Gaza, of whom we believe 24 are alive. We're still faced with that dilemma that was voiced by my daughter and by my son, that fight within us. And at this moment also, there are fissures that are reemerging within Israel, between the government and the military, between many of the people and the government. All of this is very, very painful. And it's this moment now, we have to go back and remember Am Echad. Remember that we are these people. At this moment, frankly, we need you. We need you to remind us of the essential nature of that unity. We are all here tonight. Every single person in this room is here tonight because your forebears, your parents, your grandparents, and their grandparents and their grandparents before made a decision. They made a decision to be part of that Jewish people. They made a decision to assume that responsibility, which is the essence of Jewish peoplehood, and it's the essence of Zionism. You are here tonight because you've made the decision that your children and your grandchildren and their children and grandchildren will also make that decision and have the ability and the knowledge to make that decision. It is an extraordinary moment for every single one of us. I know it seems very difficult sometimes, but flip it on its head. This is a moment of outstanding privilege, of zchut, that privilege. It is a moment where each and every one of us, every Jew in the world, has the ability to go out and make a difference. Being here tonight, your generosity, all of your support for the Barrack Academy and other Jewish causes, the Alexander Muss Academy, where I give a guest lecture every year, and I look forward to it so much. Those kids are just so inspiring. All of that, this is a privilege to be able to stand out and step forward and make that difference. Make that difference. And what difference it is? It's a difference that will ensure that we will retain our unity, that we will remain a people, they will continue to assume that responsibility, which is truly one of the great privileges of any people of any time. I don't represent the state of Israel anymore, and I'm sort of going to paraphrase your son, Howard and Ronit, by saying, I don't represent the state of Israel anymore, but I will arrogate the right to say thank you, Toda Rabah, from the people of Israel, from the state of Israel, from the Jewish people everywhere. Thank you. Thank you all for all that you do. Toda.
So good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alex Stoker, and I am the Chief Operating and Development Officer at Barrack. Thank you. So to put it in simpler terms, I raise money and I fix things. Sometimes both at the same time. Thank you, Ambassador Warren, for your informative, inspiring remarks. I'd also like to thank Howard and Ronit for their visionary commitment to Barrack. Your passion and your dedication is boundless, and we're also grateful to both of you. And Mike Stein, the strategist, the architect, and the major funder of the JNF Barrack Must Fund. Mike, your commitment and your drive is unprecedented. And by the way, I should know this. The calls I get from Mike, I know how passionate he is, and he will stop at nothing to achieve his goals, our goals. And certainly our friends at JNF, who match our gifts dollar for dollar. This program has quickly become a national model, JNF and Barrack. So I beg your indulgence for a few more minutes before we continue our celebration at the dessert reception. I'd like to acknowledge and thank our major donors for their extraordinary gifts. For the sake of brevity, I could speak fast, but I'm not going to. I made the decision not to bring them up to the stage. There's always time, I lick my fingers. For the individual presentations. I will do it on their behalf, and I thank them for it. Just think of me as a male version of Vanna White. Rabbi Lisak, would you please join me on the stage? Well, he's not Pesay Jack. That we know. So as Rabbi Lisak alluded to in his remarks, our athletic program is growing at a very fast pace. We now compete in the Friends Schools League, as well as against very strong teams throughout the region. To continue to grow and enhance the experience of all our students, we have felt that our athletic program and training program needed improvement, significant improvement, actually. Rabbi Lisak, I'm proud to present to you a check for $300,000 from the Gold family to support this major initiative. Not my money, don't take my picture. Barrack's new fitness center will significantly enlarge our sports performance space. It will power our athletic teams in their strength and conditioning, provide space for injury treatment and prevention, and serve as a community space for general health and fitness for all students, faculty, and staff. Thank you, Jennifer and Jeff. There's somewhere in the audience, I can't see them. For your commitment and support of our school and the health and wellness of our students. Rabbis, don't leave, I'm not done yet. Those of you who joined us last year when we honored Charles, and Rachel Corman, remember Charlie's passionate and emotional remarks when he spoke about his Akiba experiences and his family's commitment to the Learning Support Program. At Barrack, our resource program continues to provide the necessary support for learners of all types and ensures that they have the most productive and meaningful learning experience. both Rachel and Charlie announced their commitment to provide the resources to update our space and build a new learning center on campus. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to present a check from Charles and Rachel Corman Family Fund for $500,000. Thank you, Charlie and Rachel, for this amazing investment in Barrack and its students. I'm still not done. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm certain most of you know Len and Lynn Barrack. I'm also certain you have seen or read about their transformative investments in Barrack over the years. In fact, their total contributions exceed $25 million. But more than that, they have given their time to explore, to speak, to discuss our needs, and help strategically guide us. It was not uncommon to see Lynn on campus daily, visiting and speaking to our faculty, our staff, and of course our students, making sure the needs were being met and all were comfortable and happy. Lynn was, and continues to be, the most passionate supporter and ambassador for Barrack, always focused on our ability to provide tuition assistance for our families. Several years ago, for her birthday, Lynn and Lynn's children launched and contributed to the Lynn Barrack L'Adore Vidor Scholarship Fund to continue to focus on scholarship needs. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored and privileged to present a check from Leonard Abramson in honor of Lynn Barrack in the amount of $1 million. Thank you, Mr. Abramson, for strategic investment in our students and our families, and for continuing to grow L'Adore Vidor Fund. Thank you to all our sponsors and donors for their steadfast and generous support. And now I'm done. Now please join me right next door for dessert reception as we continue to celebrate our school, our community, and our connection to one another. Thank you, everyone.